Good evening and welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for our public hearing tonight. This is a public hearing for Van Born Investments and with an EGLE application to fill wetland and construct stormwater retention features. This is a virtual hearing. I just have a couple things to go through before we get too far. First off, my name is Ryan Blazek. I'm with EGLE's Environmental Support Division. Just going to be helping to moderate the hearing today. This is what our agenda looks like. I'm going to go through a quick introduction. That's what I'm doing right now. The big thing to keep in mind, so you're aware, there's two parts to this hearing tonight. The first part is an informational session. That's where the applicant has an opportunity or their representative to present and provide information on the project and application. And that'll be followed by a question and answer session. So you'll have an opportunity to ask some questions. And then we'll go on to the official hearing. Now, that's the part where you'll have an opportunity to make a statement for the record on this project and application. And we'll go through the directions and how we're going to do that a little bit later on. We're also going to go through other ways to submit an official comment and who to contact with additional questions. All lines are going to be muted during this hearing, so you'll be able to hear us, but won't be able to hear you until it's time to make your statement. And again, we'll go through that. You can submit your questions using the Q&A box in your Zoom toolbar at any time, but we're going to save those questions for the Q&A session that we have. And then also we are recording this hearing. So this hearing will be recorded and it'll be posted on our YouTube channel in a couple days. So you can watch it again at that time, or you can forward it on to anyone that might be interested. All right, at this time, I'd like to invite our other EGLE staff on the line to turn their cameras and mics on and introduce themselves.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm Andy Hartz. I'm one of the Warren District Supervisors in the Water Resources Division.
My name is Jeremy Richardson. I'm the District Representative in Water Resource Division, Warren District Office. And we're here this evening because Van Born Investments, LLC has proposed to construct a new concrete recycling facility in the city of Wayne County.
All right, perfect. Thank you both for that introduction. We're going to move right into that informational session we talked about. We'll see if we have Chip Toker in the audience, and we are going to unmute Chip, and then Chip will have an opportunity to present on this project. So we're going to find Chip here.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yep. It looks like yep, we can hear you.
Yep.
All right, cool. Excellent. Well, I've got your slides here, Chip. You will not be able to change them, but just let me know when you want to go on to the next part. It would be great if you keep it to around 10 minutes. We're going to need to save some time for Q&A. We're going to need to move on to the next part of the hearing around 6:30. So about 10 minutes would be great. So we can begin when you're ready.
Okay. Thanks, Ryan. My name is Chip Tokar. I'm a professional geologist with Natural Resources Management. We are the agent for the applicant in submitting this for Van Born Investments LLC for this project. We can next slide, please. The project purpose and the need. The project is for a concrete recycling facility in an industrial area in the city of Wayne, Michigan. And it's located on Van Born in the city of Wayne. It has a market service area near the I-275 and I-94 corridor in Wayne County. The market analysis completed for this project identifies several projects in the next several years that will be going on near this property. So there is support also in the local area and for regional and local road infrastructure projects. Some of the ones that local people may be familiar with is Haggerty and Van Born. There is a concrete resurfacing going on there, and the use of the project that we've developed here for this development is taking that broken concrete from any construction project, really a road project, bringing it into the site, running it through the crushing and screening plant and conveyors, breaking down the concrete to reuse it. So it's essentially recycling broken concrete, and that is a good thing because it not only avoids sending that concrete to landfills, which is traditionally done in the past, but it also promotes beneficial reuse, reduces the need for natural aggregates that are currently mined in other locations at actual quarries. It reduces that need and promotes the recycling. Most importantly, though, it is consistent with EGLE's material management division's long-term recycling and sustainability goals. Next slide, please. So this is a joint permit application with EGLE and the Army Corps of Engineers for aquatic resources that we have identified on the property. The site itself is over 20 acres, and it's a zoned industrial site zoned in the city of Wayne. That has been vacant since about 1973. Through research on the property, the aerial photographs show that the site had been historically used as a borrow pit. So soil had been removed from the property and created areas on the property that were low lying, that collected water, and then over time, some wetlands had developed on the site. The wetlands itself were that we had identified on site. Therefore, because we may have impact them during some of our development, will require this permit. Many of the wetlands that developed were from the prior excavation, which is around the early 1970s. In 1999, 2000, a different developer had come in, applied for a permit to to conduct an industrial development and develop the property into an industrial park, and at that time received a permit from EGLE's predecessor, MDEQ, for approximately 1.3 acres of wetland impacts on the site. So what we're proposing here is fairly similar. Next slide, please. This map here shows the location of the site. I can't use my cursor. Am I able to point at the slides at all? Probably
No,
not.
sorry, but I can try to.
Okay, so I'll describe as best I can. The green outlined area, right, correct, thank you very much, is the site itself. Van Born Road is to the south. Treadwell Avenue is to the east. To the west is the Ford stamping plant that borders the property along the west side. The north part there is bordered by some residential area and then the railroad. But the purple identifies the industrial zoning surrounding the property and the property itself. Next slide, please. This slide shows the future land use as designated by the city of Wayne, adopted July 19th, 2021. And as you can note, the future use of the property, as the city has provided in their master plan, is developable as industrial property on the property itself and surrounding areas. And that's represented by the light purple and the dark purple. Next slide, please. So this permits is about the first step. We had to conduct an aquatic resource evaluation, and aquatic resources meaning the wetlands and the streams. On the site, we identified 12 individual wetland areas and 1 stream area. The county drain is located on the east side of the property near Treadwell. And I don't know if you can point that out. It's a light blue line trending north to south on the property. Yep, that's it. And then these individual wetland areas are identified as green blotches. The regulated ones are identified in light green, and the dark green one is identified as an unregulated wetland. On the site, the one thing to point out is the reason that the individual wetlands are regulated is because of the drain itself. These wetland areas, since they're located within 500 foot of the drain, qualifies them to be regulated wetlands. If the drain was farther away, then these wetlands, all of them on the site, would likely be classified as unregulated. And we also evaluated the quality of the wetlands. Most of them were dominated by invasive species and of lower quality. One of the wetlands to the north, wetland number 1, which is on the very top of the screen, was the highest quality wetland identified at the site. Next slide, please. So keeping in mind, this slide here just shows a picture of one of the central wetlands. The species identified mainly that dominate the smaller wetland area is invasive species and Phragmites. Next slide, please. So after identification of the wetlands, we had to conduct an alternatives analysis. And this is a pretty detailed evaluation of alternatives to what we're proposing here. And the reason is for us to go through this is to preserve as much of the aquatic resources as possible while still meeting the project goals. And it requires us to go through several what we call metrics or practicability factors of each identifiable property or different alternatives of developing the site itself. And what we do is we look at each of these individual alternatives and list the detailed each individual practicability factor. And once those factors are determined to either meet or not meet the project goals, we can then select the best site, which typically is that site that meets most of the goals, most of the factors, and avoids the most aquatic resources. Next slide, please. So this slide here is just an example of our matrix, our comparison matrix for each site. Across the top is each alternative 1 through 6 that we evaluated. The practicability or factor or category is on the left side, and what this essentially shows is the process and the result of what we evaluated when we looked at the site and other sites for alternatives. And what we ended up finding is that this site is the best alternative for various reasons. And those things that we looked at were the size of the site, the amount of wetlands on the property, is the site even available, the current zoning of the property. Next slide, please. So once we identified the site and the resources and began to develop site plans in order to meet the goals of the project, what our obvious goal was to do is avoid as much of the wetlands as possible. We needed to impact some of the wetlands on this area just because the regulated wetlands and the drain, and because of the drain itself, required us to be centrally located. And that way we only would disrupt the central or smaller wetland areas, and we can preserve the larger wetlands around the perimeter of the property and retain those buffer areas, especially near the residential properties to the north. And I can show that here on the next slide here, but the important thing here is we promote aquatic resource preservation, and we're able, in our site plan that I will show here in a little bit, we're able to preserve over 65% of the wetland areas on site. Next slide, please. I apologize for the size of this slide, but I tried to fit the site plan on one slide. The site plan itself, what you can see on this slide is the development area was positioned so we're farther away from residential locations to the north. The site developed area is shown, thank you, Ryan, with a berm surrounding the perimeter of the site. In central to that, there's these dark lines. There's a box and some dark lines. That is the actual processing plant and conveyor system. Stockpiles will be located in that lighter white area that's surrounded by those outer bermed areas. And there's also the largest feature on the site is actually going to be the stormwater pond, which is located in the northwest corner of that, or northeast corner of that developed area. So we also positioned the plant as farther to the west as possible, so we could be adjacent to the current Ford stamping plant. And that allowed us also to maintain a larger buffer along the drain, county drain that's located on the east side of the property. So essentially what we did is we were able to preserve the highest quality wetland to the north and additional wetlands to the east on the other side of the drain and to the south and the northwest corner. And regarding water quality, we're able to place our stormwater pond there in that developed area, which will allow all the surface water to drain from the property, be treated through stormwater pollution prevention measures, and will not impact the quality of the water in the drain itself. Next slide, please. Yeah, so in addition to this evaluation and this permit, it was a pretty long process, and there were several things that we had to go through with the applicant itself and Van Born Investments. The main things were other permits that were necessary to do this, not only EGLE permits, but permits for the local and state. Specifically, the special exception permit, the applicant had to go through with the City of Wayne Zoning Board of Appeals. That was received in April of 2022. They additionally received a rezoning approval of some of the parcels that had previously been zoned residential and were rezoned industrial by City Council on August 22nd, 2022. And additionally, we had to conduct a site plan approval or go through the site plan approval process by City Council in July 19, and that was done July 19 of 2022. The reason I'm pointing this out is because at all of those events, there was ample time for public comment and concern, which we definitely took into account during the development of the project. And in addition to that, the local zoning approvals, we also have submitted for our industrial stormwater permit, and that is being reviewed now with EGLE. The Air Quality Division has issued the air permit for the site plant that we're proposing to bring in. And the Stormwater and Drain Commission is reviewing our plans right now for that. For the drain and the hydraulic modeling for the floodplain, that's in process to confirm floodplain boundaries. We have received letter of support from the City of Wayne. Next slide is shown on the next slide, if you could, please. And that letter of support clearly points out the City of Wayne has been looking at a developer to develop this site. They maintain the industrial setting. It is consistent with their master plan. It will also create jobs. And they support the projects for other reasons. Mainly, it's going to support the community. And it'll offer a business in the area that'll be able to support the local building infrastructures projects. Okay, that includes my presentation. I know it's a lot of information. I tried to summarize it clearly. I'm sure there may be some questions.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Chip. If anybody has any questions at this time, we'll take them. You can submit your question using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen in your Zoom toolbar. So just type it in there, send it to us, and we'll do kind of like a question and answer panel here. We'll ask this of our EGLE staff and our panel. Or you can click your hand icon at the bottom of your screen. That'll raise your hand in Zoom. And we can call on you, we'll unmute you, and then you have a chance to ask your question. If there's people on the phone, you're welcome to type #2 on your receiver, and that will also raise your hand in Zoom. We'll call on you using the last 4 digits of your phone number, and then you can ask your question. A couple other quick things to note are this specifically the portion that for the question and answers. We're going to save the statements that you want to make on this project to a little bit later on. So this is our question and answer session, and this will be your opportunity to ask questions. All right, and it looks like I have a raised hand. All right, Connie Boris, we will unmute you. And you should be able to ask your question. You have to unmute yourself and then ask your question.
All right, I have a series of questions that I could not find the answers to. And I need this information so that I can better comment and submit comments on behalf of the Wayne County Conservation District. I'd like to see the aerials. I would like to see the MyRM score sheet. I would like to know what natural communities were identified in the area. I would like to see the previous Part 301, 303 permits that were issued for this subject property. Mostly, I would love to see the wetland delineation forms. I would like to see the on-site survey dates on the subject property by NRM for threatened and endangered species. And I would like to know why on your alternative wetland sites that most of them are all wetlands. There was only one that was not a wetland. I'd like to know the rationale for that, because there are other alternatives in that area that are as large and are within the 12-mile radius that you should not have been so narrow on your project purpose, but you were, and that's kind of a violation of Part 303.
Connie, we have other questions as well. So, and some of the
Okay.
stuff was showing stuff. So maybe, I don't know if Andrew or Jeremy can tell Connie the best way to maybe access some of the stuff. And then Connie, if you have a question that we can answer tonight, please ask it, and then we'll have to move on to the next question.
All right.
Yeah, so we have the My Enviro Site Explorer. So a lot of those documents are available through that program for download and review. Specifically the WIP information and the data forms and the field notes from the WIP that was completed for the site. You know, as far as the aerials and the MyRam information, you know, we can review the file and see if that information was included as part of the application material. Probably the easiest process would be just to send an email and I can respond and provide this information to you.
Okay, I've got it all written out. I'll definitely email it to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and the applicant's not required to do a MyRam. That's an additional review of the parcel using the MyRam process that isn't required by 303, but is often submitted with an application.
Yeah,
don't
well,
think-
I'd like to see that.
And I don't think these guys have performed that on this site. Chip?
If you read their report, they did do it and they gave a quantitative score.
Oh, okay. We'll look at that.
All right, thanks for your question, Connie. I have a couple questions in the Q&A box, and I think, Chip, I accidentally, unmuted you. All right. Are you there, Chip?
Yeah, I'm here. I just wanted to add that EGLE did qualify all the work under the wetland program, wetland identification program.
All right. Yeah, thanks for adding that. All right, a couple questions in the Q&A box. What is the long-term impact of the silica dust on the soil, air, and water? So that's the first part. Second part, have the implications of the contaminants been investigated? Anything we can say on silica dust as it relates to this permit or application?
And that would be, you know, basically a different division under air quality division. And again, we can provide some contact information for staff in the different divisions that may have better insight or information on this.
Thanks, Jeremy. And I should also mention, I'm going to provide Jeremy's contact information at the end of the presentation and the hearing today, so that if you have any follow-up questions or that Jeremy could forward on to other folks, you'll have that information. Another question, what are your findings of the impact on existing underground and then parentheses gas utilities? Was that part of what was looked at? I guess.
Not aware of any gas utilities on the site.
Yeah, that's not a part of our review, Ryan. I mean, the developer and the contractors would be responsible for identifying any kind of utilities on the site that needed to be accounted for.
Okay, yeah, thank you both. Are there any other questions that we can answer, that this panel can answer tonight? I don't have any more in the Q&A box. I'll give it a few more seconds here in case anybody has additional questions. I just want to mention the next thing we're going to go through after this part is we'll talk about the other ways to submit a comment. And then we'll go into the part where you can make a comment for the record on this application. Okay, looks like I have a raised hand, Jacob Carrick. We're going to unmute you, and you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, hey there. I was just wondering if you're able to describe any kind of controls or anything that will be used to manage like fugitive dust and that type of thing at the site, or if any of that has been determined.
Chip needs to speak to that.
Yeah.
Anything, Chip, that you can speak
Am I
to?
unmuted? Yeah, that's part of the fugitive dust plan or the air permit that we have, but yes, all that will be incorporated into this development.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be things like water sprays. Most of the stuff is required to keep the dust down.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the question. All right, I got a couple more here in the Q&A box. So this one is a follow-up to the gas line question, and I think the gas being asked about is the main gas lines on the west side of the property. Property is not bordered by the Ford stamping plant. There is a gas line that the property borders on. So I guess that was more of a comment on the gas question. I don't see a question there. And if you have one who asked that question, feel free to ask it. Has the permit application given consideration on the development's environmental impact and the residential concerns? So I don't know if you want to talk about if you're able to address this, Jeremy, or talk about the application process or anything along those lines.
Well, I mean, that's part of the application review process is we public notice the application that gives the public and local municipalities an opportunity to comment on the project and voice any concerns that they may have with the proposal. And also to request a public hearing. So that's why we have scheduled this hearing.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy. Let's see here. So then I'm going to read this question. I'm not sure it's one we can answer because it's related to air quality questions again, which isn't the focus of tonight's hearing, but it would think that the question is, would think the silica dust would pertain more to just air quality, especially when it lands in the soil and water. How are guaranteed that this will be a safe process? What kind of quality controls are going to be used? So I'm not sure if there's anything we can speak about the air permit or the silica dust use any further than what we have. I don't know, thoughts, Jeremy or Andy?
No, any kind of follow-up on that, they should really follow up with Air Quality Detroit. And we can provide that contact information. We did confirm, like Chip had talked about, they do have a permit from Air Quality for this site, for this land use.
Okay, thanks, Andy. All right, and I have one more question in here, and we are at about time to move on anyway. So the question is, how did EGLE get the word out to the residents on this public hearing?
That's part of the script coming up here. But we had a few different notification processes. One of them was the public hearing notice that was sent out to the local municipalities and adjacent property owners. It was also published in the Detroit News and posted on the EGLE online calendar.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy. I don't have any questions right now. And like I mentioned, we're at time. We need to move on to the next part of the evening regardless. So thank you to our panelists for answering those questions and all of you for providing them. So let's go through the next part, which is the other ways to submit a comment. So if you don't want to make a comment tonight verbally, there's a couple other ways that you can make a comment through My Enviro. You can type that directly in. That's going to go in our chat into our My Enviro system under submission HPS HVYW R4E40. So you can access that from the chat, or you can go in there and make your comment, or by mail to EGLE, Warren District Office, 2770 Donald Court, and that's Warren, Michigan, 48092, 2793. And the comment period after this public hearing will be open for 10 days, which will be August 20th. Oops, sorry about that. And I should also mention that you can do both as well. So if you run out of time for your comments tonight, or if you forget about something, you forgot to mention something, you can provide a follow-up supplemental comment via one of these methods. All right, so we're going to move on to the hearing part. So Jeremy, I'd like to invite you to read the opening statement tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As mentioned, my name is Jeremy Richardson. I'm the district representative in Water Resource Division EGLE. I'll be serving as a hearing officer for this public hearing on EGLE submission number HPS HVYW R4E40 Van Born Investments LLC. With me tonight is Andrew Hartz, the Water Resource Division District Supervisor for the Warren District Office. To describe how this is going to work tonight, I'll begin with some background information about why we're here tonight. I'll then describe the purpose of the hearing and how your comments will be used. Following that, I'll outline the procedures under which we'll take your comments and describe what will happen after tonight's hearing. It will then be time for you to provide your comments, and we'll spend the majority of the time this evening listening to those comments. At the end of the hearing, I'll read the closing statement. By way of background information, the Water Resource Division is responsible for administering a variety of programs that help protect inland lakes and streams, wetlands, floodplains, sand dunes, and the Great Lakes. These programs regulate certain activities such as dredging or filling of a lake, stream, or wetland, constructing a dam, constructing a marina, placing shore protection or constructing docks, and building in a designated critical sand dune area, wetland, or floodplain. The law governing those responsibilities is the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, 1994, PA 451, as amended, commonly referred to as Act 451. We're here tonight because Van Born Investments LLC has proposed the following: to construct a new concrete recycling facility in the city of Wayne. Proposed activities include placing 70,370 cubic yards of fill material in 1.35 acres of wetland, constructing a 0.69 acre bioretention stormwater feature, and constructing a 2.85 acre stormwater management pond, and installing a 36-inch diameter stormwater outlet to the McCleary drain with 1 cubic yard of riprap. In order for a permit to be granted, EGLE must find that the proposed activities described in the public notice meet certain criteria set by Part 301, Inland Lakes and Streams, and Part 303, Wetlands Protection of Act 451. In general, we must consider the effect of the proposed project on the stream and wetlands. When reviewing an application for permit under the provisions of Part 301 and 303 of Act 451, EGLE is charged to make the following considerations as required by Section 301.06 of Part 301. That would be: the department shall issue a permit if it finds that the structure or project will not adversely affect the public trust or riparian rights, and that the department shall not grant a permit if the proposed project or structure will unlawfully impair or destroy any of the waters or other natural resources of the state. When reviewing an application for permit under the provisions of Part 303 Wetlands Protection, Act 451, EGLE is charged to make the following indications as required by Section 303.11, Part 303, and that a permit for an activity listed in Section 303.04 shall not be approved unless the department determines that the issuance of a permit is in the public interest, that the permit is necessary to realize the benefits derived from the activity, and that the activity is otherwise lawful. Number one, a permit shall not be issued unless it is shown that an unacceptable disruption will not result in the aquatic resources, and that a permit shall not be issued unless the applicant also shows either of the following: that the proposed activity is primarily dependent upon being located in wetland, or a feasible including alternative does not exist. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to give anyone interested in Van Born Investments LLC an opportunity to provide information that EGLE can use in making the decision whether or not to issue a permit. Please recognize that EGLE can only use this information you provide if it relates to the criteria that EGLE must use in making a decision. Some of you may simply want to express your support or opposition to the project. We'll be happy to make note of your position, but please understand that EGLE is now by law not allowed to base our decision on whether or not there's widespread support or opposition to the project. In just a moment, I'll outline the procedures we'll use for taking your comments, but before I do so, I need to mention that the notice of this hearing was sent out on July 26th, 2023, was published in the Detroit News on July 29th, 2023, and was also posted in the EGLE online calendar. As we discussed at the beginning of the informational session, if you have a comment to provide, raise your hand in the Zoom toolbar. To ensure that the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we'll follow these steps. Number one, well, first, the applicant consultant has already had an opportunity to describe the proposed project. Second, we'll then call on those who have indicated in their registration that they would like to speak. After that, we'll call on those that raised their hand in their Zoom toolbar that they would like to make a comment if they haven't already been called upon. As a reminder, if you are participating in this hearing by telephone only, follow the directions of the moderator on how to identify that you would like to make a comment. You may also submit your comments to EGLE using the My Enviro portal, email, or US mail. When all comments have been completed, we'll ask if anyone else would like to make a statement. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted. As you begin your comments, please state your name and any group or association you may represent. Each person will be given 4 minutes to make their comments, and we will indicate to you when you have a minute left. Please begin wrapping up your comments and within the allotted time. If need be, we will indicate when your time is ended. I ask that we all be courteous and respectful to one another this evening. Please also recognize that EGLE staff is here tonight to provide a fair opportunity for you to express your comments on the proposed project and to listen to those comments. This hearing is being recorded and your comments will be a part of the information EGLE will consider in making its decision on whether or not to issue a permit on the proposed project. Public comment period for this public hearing is open for 10 days from the date of this hearing, ending on August 20th, 2023. Additional information and comments submitted in writing during the 10-day public comment period will also be considered in EGLE's decision. Following the close of the public comment period, EGLE will make a decision to either issue a permit for the project as proposed or with modifications, or send a letter of denial. You may find out what the decision is by checking the EGLE My Enviro portal website and searching for the application number HPS HBYW R4E40. Thank you for your attention. We'll begin calling the names of those who have indicated that they would like to make a statement.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. All right, we are going to get started with taking people's comments. As Jeremy mentioned, I have a list of people who indicated during registration that they'd like to make a comment. I have 4 names. I'm going to read the name and then who is up after that person so that you kind of have a heads up that you're next. Everyone will have 4 minutes. I'll give you about a 1-minute heads up when you're getting close to that 4-minute timeline. Everyone will have an opportunity to make a comment, and there is going to be 1 comment per person. If there's someone else on the line who would like to make a comment when your turn is up, just let me know, and we'll let that person provide their comment at that time. So with that, we'll go ahead and get rolling. First up is Cheryl Bowman, and after Cheryl is Connie Boris. So Cheryl, we're going to find you in the audience here and unmute you. All right, it looks like you are unmuted on our end. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question. Or I'm sorry, make your statement. Are you there,
Hi,
Cheryl?
yes, can you hear me?
Yep, you can begin when you're ready.
Okay, thanks. My comment is a review of a comment that I submitted June 5th of this year regarding the NREPA regulations that changed in 2023. The regulations on the wetlands, lakes and streams protection of the NREPA were updated effective 2023. The recent application should be evaluated with current regulations protecting the environment. Protecting creek and river. The McGluckery Creek wetland, which is on 46 acres of this development, directly impacts a natural underground spring, the Edmund Creek and Rouge River, into which it flows. This fragile environment is being asked to withstand a smaller surface area, pollution and operation noise pollution. The project will interrupt natural water flow with new construction, allow toxic waste pilings on the wetlands, force wetland waters into adjacent neighborhoods, allow pollution to flow into the river, impact flood stages in, on, and under the site and surrounding area, and affect wildlife and adjacent neighborhoods, which I am an adjacent property owner, with operational noise. Contamination runoff, alkaline and chemical contamination and transportation sediment also affect water quality. High pH runoff, leachate and concrete recycling impacts natural waters. Wildlife considerations. If the wetland and mature forest green space are disrupted by this project, pollinators such as monarch butterflies, bees in particular will be increasingly threatened. This site is known for animal wildlife. There's deer, rabbits, raccoons, possums, waterfowl, all kinds of things back there. And a wide variety of plant life that will be dislocated. All are crucial to a healthy environment. My application or my comment did say the proposed application fails to address the implications on wildlife, nor address whether endangered species exist on the site. That was talked about earlier in our meeting. The public health. Wayne County has the highest percentile rates of cancer, respiratory illnesses, kidney disease, and other ailments in the state. Receptacle silica dust is a byproduct of cutting, sawing, grinding, drilling, crushing stone, rock, concrete, etc., and mortar. Exposure to silica dust and inhaling it provides a risk of developing serious silica-related diseases such as silicosis, an incurable lung disease that leads to a disability and death, lung cancer, COPD.
You have about one minute left, Cheryl.
Okay. So in conclusion, and again, some of this has already been addressed, we would like to know the company's, the developer's environmental history, and if consideration is given to potential contamination already on site, like there's discarded 55-gallon barrels, and the project impact on existing underground utilities. Again, that was mentioned earlier this evening. It is our determination, the residents and many members of the community, that the project risk outweigh the benefits to the city. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Cheryl. All right, next up is Connie Boris, and then after Connie is Craig Valencia. So Connie, we will unmute you. All right, you are unmuted on our end. Feel free to start your comments when you're ready.
Okay, I want to second on behalf of the Conservation District, everything that the previous speaker just mentioned. I had some of those very same concerns, or the conservation does, but we have only 4 minutes. So let me get to other concerns that the Conservation District has. First of all, the feasible and prudent alternative analysis is extremely faulty and needs to be discarded. The project purpose was defined so narrowly. For example, a 12-mile radius from the convergence of I-275 and I-94 between Willow Run Airport and Detroit Metro Airport. That is a violation of R 281.922 paren A paren 4, which states an applicant shall not so narrowly define the purpose as to limit a complete analysis of feasible and prudent alternatives. And that's exactly what was done. You can say whatever you want about the 12-mile radius from I-275 and I-94, that intersection, but you can't use that narrow definition of the project purpose to limit your analysis of alternatives under Part 303, which again is exactly what is being done here. Now let's talk about some of the alternatives. The alternatives that were selected to compare with the preferred wetland destruction alternative is also very faulty. First of all, 4 of the 5 alternatives chosen by MMR are wetland properties. That is silly. Why don't you look at vacant large parcels of land without wetlands? We have those properties on Inkster Road near I-94. It's a former construction area. It's where a construction facility used to be, a construction company. That is flat, narrow, cleared, and no wetlands. And it is also within the so-called 12-mile radius, although that should not be really discussed here. All right, so that's one thing. Another thing, you talk about, or the consultant talks about technology, and there's no emerging technology. What about the emerging technology of mobile concrete crushers as an alternative? Because that will eliminate the transportation cost associated with transporting the concrete for road projects. And you don't have to worry about zoning, because DOT can use its power of eminent domain to secure an area next to a road building project. So you don't
You
need
have
to be
about a minute
concerned
left,
with it.
Connie.
Oh, boy. Also, is there really a need for another concrete crushing facility? We have Nago Recycling, Detroit Recycled Concrete, Michigan Crushed Concrete, and 9 other competitors. Okay, one other quick thing. Page 8 of the levy report. It says, while it's acceptable in most base applications, it's known that crushed concrete will deteriorate in excessively wet conditions and can only be used in limited proportion to meet MDOT specification. So it looks like it's not even prudent, according to the levy report, which was cited, to store crushed concrete in a wetland. Then there's all the other things. The mitigation bank is Bell River. That's not even the Lower Rouge River. Just
And you're at time, Connie. It'd be great if you could wrap your comments up.
okay. Wayne County Conservation District strongly urges EGLE to deny this permit. Part 303 permit application. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. All right. Next up is Craig Valencia, and then after Craig is Chris Jackson. So Craig. Do you see a Craig, Caitlin?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right, so we don't have Craig with us right now. Chris Jackson is up, and then Chris is the last person on my list, and then we will go to raised hands. Anyone who wants to make a comment and hasn't made a comment can raise their hand. All right, so Chris, it looks like you are unmuted on our end. You can begin when you're ready.
Good evening. I am Chris Jackson with Jackson Consulting Group. I am a land use consultant for Van Born Investments as relates to this project, as well as a number of other projects that I've worked on with Mr. Kalo. I just want to, just testify to the fact you have, received the letter from the city itself, noting the fact of their support of the project. I worked actively as we went through the process of acquiring the various approvals needed by the city for this facility. And so those approvals included the special exception, which there was no very specific reference relative to concrete crushing facility as relates to, there was various similar references or uses, but not specific. And so we had to go through a special process, extra process, where there was a special exception given by their zoning board of appeals. In that process, there was a public hearing that was conducted to allow the public to express their support or opposition. And then there was a vote. Additional to that, we had to go through a site plan approval process, which included two-pronged process of going before both the City Planning Commission and receiving their approval, as well as their City Council and receiving their approval. And so in both cases, both the City Planning Commission hearing gave public notice. There were several residents that were there in attendance. We did our presentations, and there was then an affirmative vote by the Planning Commission to refer it to City Council for the site plan approval. And then with City Council, there was also public notice of opportunity for residents to express their support or opposition. And then there was the affirmative vote of the City Council. And then lastly, there was a portion of the site that was still residential. All the rest of the site is zoned either heavy or light industrial. The city's master plan, as you saw earlier, calls for that whole entire area to be industrial. They have designated that area going back to over 30 years as to be a heavy and light industrial area where to attract business. And so there were portions of the site that to right size everything, we did go through the process again, which started with the City Planning Commission, public notice and hearing. It was
You got about a minute left, Chris.
Okay, and I'm wrapping up. And then, of course, the rezoning of those parcels also had to go through the City Council and ultimately were approved, and there was public notice again. And so I just wanted to reiterate and emphasize here that through those three major approvals, there was significant and extensive public engagement and opportunity for discussion and regarding this project. And that was all taken in consideration by the City of Wayne. at all those various levels as they gave all of their approvals. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comments, Chris. All right, so that is our list of people who indicated during registration they wanted to make a comment. If there's anybody else on the line right now that would like to make a comment or on by the phone, you can raise your hand in Zoom. You see your raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. You just click that, that'll raise your hand, and then we'll call on people in turn and everyone will have a chance. If you're on the phone, I think we do have at least a few phone-in callers. You can select #2 on your receiver and that will raise your hand in Zoom, and then we'll call on you and unmute you and you can make your statement as well. All right, so looks like Alfred Brock, we're going to unmute you and you can begin when you're ready with your statement.
Thank you very much this evening, Mr. Blazek, for having this meeting. I really appreciate it. And Mr. Richardson, I sent you off an email asking about the instructions that you provided earlier because I find those very interesting and they're going to help me write some written comments that I have for you. What I wanted to do is I'm gonna please do like you did with the other folks and call me out when I'm done. I think I might be done early. When this was first announced, there was a public meeting that I attended. I'm Mayor Pro Tem here at the City of Wayne, and I attended a zoning board of appeals meeting where there's about 60 neighbors that showed up. So pretty much represented that whole neighborhood that you see up there. They were all there, and they were treated with great disrespect and insult. And then there was a social thing that went on. They got insulted. They all get up and left. So only one person spoke, and the rest of them left, and their input has been limited, to say the least, from them. They're disgusted with government. It's really very much a concern here in the City of Wayne. I know everything was signed off and approved and all that, and the folks at the City of Wayne need to do their work. And I appreciate that also, and they're looking to get jobs and things. It was told to me by someone from EGLE, and I'm sorry, I don't know who it is, so it's just hearsay, that local communities had figured out how to change their zoning in order to allow the EGLE to have the material that they needed to go ahead and approve something that might otherwise be considered a problematic. So I'm not saying you guys did anything wrong, but certainly it appeared that something strange happened here, because if I'm not mistaken, the zoning area was originally residential, and about a year prior to that, it was changed to light industrial and then to heavy industrial. And I was personally told that the intention was the people of the City of Wayne always wanted this area to be heavy industrial, which is strange all by itself. So there's just a lot of strange things that were going on in the background about that. But the folks were treated with great disrespect and insult. I don't feel that they were properly heard or their concerns addressed in any way. And I feel bad about that, because I also didn't get to work with the petitioner, because I do want to have jobs here. I do want things to work. And that, he did what he did over there by Johnson Creek, and maybe we could do something a little different here in McClowry Creek so that the impacts that happen over there don't happen over here. But that's not going to happen unless we're all speaking, EGLE speaking, the city is speaking, elected representatives, professionals in the administration, and also the citizens themselves. So I'm really concerned about how that all played out at the beginning. And I hope I can get the instructions from Mr. Richardson so I can write some really effective comments for you and give you a more exact, detailed. Let me finish with this. After the meeting at the Zoning Board of Appeals, 2 members of the Zoning Board of Appeals Commission approached the representatives from Mr. Kalo after they had voted to say okay to this, and after the people had stormed out in great stress. I'm so upset about that. The way they were treated was, I'll use the word disgusting, because that's what it was. So after that had all taken place and they had voted to say okay, they went to these people, to the representatives, and asked them exactly what exactly what are you going to be doing over there on that plot of land. And that was
about a minute left. Alfred.
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you so much for your time.
Yep, thanks for your comments.
You're welcome.
Right, is there anybody else who would like to make a comment who hasn't made one already? Again, you can select your raise hand icon at the bottom of the screen in Zoom, or if you're on the phone, select #2 to raise your hand in Zoom, and we'll call on you and you'll have 4 minutes to make your comment. If we don't get any further comments at this point, what we'll do is we'll go on to the next couple slides. We'll close out this hearing part when we'll go through those other ways you can make a comment if you want to follow up. And then I'll also provide Jeremy's contact information in case you have additional questions. So we'll be providing that as well. So at this point, I'm just not seeing any other raised hands. So Jeremy, could you please read the closing statement tonight?
Thank you. Thank you for your comments and cooperation. We appreciate your interest in the proposed project and you took the time to be here this evening. As indicated at the beginning of the hearing, you may submit additional written comments until August 20th, 2023. Following the close of the public comment period, we will consider all comments received and make a decision on the proposed project. Just to remind those that may still want to submit a comment, comments can be submitted by the MyEnviro portal, email, or by mail. And there's the information. The hearing is now closed. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. As Jeremy mentioned, you can see the other ways to submit a comment on your screen, the MyEnviro portal, submission HPS HVYWR4E40. And we did put that in the chat previously, or by mail, and I'll read this out for people on the phone. By mail to the Warren District Office, 2770 Donald Court, and that's Warren, Michigan 48092-2793. And the comment period is open until August 20th, which is 10 days. All right. And in case you have those additional questions, you can contact Jeremy Richardson directly, and Jeremy's phone number, and again, I'll read this for those on the phone, 248-763-1664, or at Richardson J1, and that's RICHARDSONJ1 at michigan.gov. So you can feel free to take a photo of this if you'd like as well. It might be a little easier. Let's see here. And with that, that wraps up our evening. Andy, I'm wondering if you had any closing comments for us tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. You know, the public's participation in this process is important, and we want to thank everybody for taking time out tonight to send comments and participate in tonight's hearing. Please share it with your neighbors. Comment period's open for additional period. But hearing from neighbors and hearing from the people who are immediately adjacent is important. So we appreciate everybody's time tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Andy, and our hearings officer, Jeremy. Last thing I have is just a reminder that this hearing was recorded. It'll be on our YouTube channel in the next few days, so you'll be able to find it there. Can watch it again or forward it on if you like. With that, I hope you all have a great rest of your night. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.